Aquí encetem aquesta edició extraordinària de Sónar+D CCCB.
Muy pronto empezamos a plantear cómo la esfera de lo digital suplementaría a la esfera de lo presencial. Artistas, colaboradores que se los unirían digitalmente.
Some would like to dance, or others would imagine visuals in their mind.
We have to search another alternatives.
How do you keep it kind of vibrant and exciting and new?
Inventando nuevas maneras y nuevas plataformas para poder seguir creando.
Let's use every day, week, month, or year to come out of this stronger together.
Hello, good afternoon, buonasera. I am Antònia Folguera. I want to thank, first of all, AGORÁ and Video Città for inviting me to participate and to give me the first slot of the conference. So maybe I can say welcome. I know that you can ask me questions, so you can write them down, and at the end of the talk, I will answer. So let's start. First of all, as I said, I am Antònia Folguera, and I'm a curator. I curate people who happen to be artists in different festivals, as in the introduction, you have seen a video of the festival that employs me the most of the time in the year, which is Sonár, and I am a curator at Sónar+D, which is Sónar Festival's Creative Technologies Conference, which takes place in Barcelona. If nothing happens, mid-June. This year we made a special edition mid-September, also testing the possibilities of creating new formats for a space in which the physical presence and the virtual presence get together in a way. But without further ado, I'm going to first of all, let you know why am I here. I think that's a good question to start. The AGORÁ team asked me to explain how I work, how I do, and how I do it. And in doing so, giving some ideas and giving some tips to artists, like professional artists, professional people in the creative field, but also maybe to students who at some point want to become artists and making creative work and presenting it to festivals. So Sónar+D is a festival that employs me most of the time, and there I curate the conference, and I also give inputs to the booking team for pieces that are audiovisual, like maybe audio and video performances, or maybe installations, VR pieces, and other kind of things. I also work, and I've been collaborating with them for over 10 years with a festival called Euphonic. It's way smaller than Sonár, and it takes place late August, early September in the south of Catalonia, in the zone of the Ebro Delta, which is a very specific natural and urban zone. And the festival happens in different locations in places, both natural and urban. So the curating part has to do with taking into account these specific spaces and places. And there I also curate people, because I curate also the conference, where the professionals like you who are watching get together and get to know about each other and get in touch with artists so they can make their work. Actually, my work is possible also because of activities like this one that we are doing right now in AGORÁ, that it has given me the possibility to meet some Italian artists that work in the digital arts that I may book at some point, or may advise the teams at the festivals that I work to book them, because their work is perfect for the specific instance that that requires every year. But we are going to get into that. This year, I'm also collaborating with a festival in Eindhoven in the Netherlands called STRP. It's also a digital arts festival. Each of these festivals has a different scope, but most of them have to do with the intersection where art meets technology, meets science, meets things that happen in the world and the place that we occupy in it. And the fourth festival I'm collaborating this year is more a music festival. It takes place in Tenerife in the Canary Islands. It's called Querosén. And it's a music festival that has also like a big audiovisual dimension. They have a huge, amazing screen so that visual artists can make amazing things. And the festival gives great freedom to artists to experiment and to do incredible and amazing things there. But now that you know more or less what I do, I will share how I work in order to give you this insight on what you can do as an artist to pitch your project or to get your project into the frame of a festival. And the first thing that I'm going to tell you is that it's not an exact science. I may tell you a lot of things that are very practical, but at the end of the day, every year is different, every festival is different, and every festival and every event asks every time for different things and tries to respond to different questions. So sometimes it's just a matter of time and just a matter to fit or to be in the right place in the right moment. So basically, what does a curator in the digital arts and music scene do? Well, it might look like a glamorous, fancy job, but at the end of the day, I basically read a lot. I spend a lot of time on the internet researching for things, trying to find things from all over the world, trying to learn about what new technologies are out there that artists and creators are embracing in order to do their works. I try to be as open-eyed as I can to how these creative technologies evolve over time. So in tracking down the evolution of these technologies, you are able to every year propose things that are relevant and that are a little step further than last year. So it's, well, yes, sometimes it can be glamorous, but most of the time it's not glamorous or fancy. And it's about making a lot of research. And as I was telling you, it's about reading and writing and also talking to people. The way that you receive your inputs to curate the festivals, not just for the artworks like the installations or the AV performances, but also I curate the conference. So I need people who might give inputs and informations and can share knowledge about specific things. And what you do is try to tie up everything together so it makes sense. Let me tell you. Let's imagine that we have a great audiovisual performance where there are amazing, breathtaking visuals that are maybe driven by artificial intelligence. And then there is amazing generative music and perhaps some crazy scenography with robots. And also, so we have experienced a little bit of a glitch in time, and that means that we are alive, that everything that I'm saying to you right now is happening exactly right now. Maybe you are receiving it with just a few milliseconds of later. So what I was telling you, if I might recall, is that at the festivals that I work at, especially at Sónar Festival, that what I do is to curate people, and that the people that we have on stage, or that maybe they have an installation, we try to involve them at the conference so they can share their expertise in whatever they do. Maybe it is in virtual scenography, maybe it's in computer graphics, maybe it's in making music with artificial intelligence, or maybe it's another thing. But what we try to do is to give this 360 degree of creativity so that you can experience something on stage, or you can experience something in an installation or an immersive experience. And at the same time, these artists, these people that create this kind of works, they share with you, the audience, what they do and how they do it. And you will ask, okay, so this is what you do on your festival with the people that you curate, and to get here, you basically read and write and surf the internet and go places and ask artists and try to see as many festivals as you can. Yes. But at the very same time, when you curate these people and these artists and these works to be part of your festival, you have to see the festival as a big picture. And this big picture has little elements, has little scenes, it has vignettes in which happen different things. And all these little pieces have to fit well together. So when you decide that you are going to curate a specific work or a specific artist, it's most of the time or all of the time to look at this bigger picture. And what is it in this bigger picture? There are different things. First of all, it's the nature of the festival. Like, how is that festival? Every festival is different, and that a festival says about itself that it's about creativity and technology and art. It's like saying everything and at the same time, because two festivals can have more or less the same claim, but the things that you find in them might be very different. They might have a different vibe, because sometimes it doesn't seem like it, but digital creativity is very diverse in its output. So the history of the festival, like the vibe of the festival, this plays an important role. Then there are festivals that work around a theme, that every year have a theme. So the works that you may select or may curate and the people you may invite to participate are experts in this field, or these are works that fit more or less loosely around the theme of the festival. Another thing that you have to understand about the festival that you are curating things for is, besides how is the festival, how is the audience? And this is maybe the most difficult thing to know, because you get to know it over time. Like attending the festival, like at Sonar, I went there for the first time when I was very, very young, something like in 1996. So I have been an audience before of the festival, before I worked there. So when you are going there, you try to get a grasp of the audience, and you try to understand the audience, and you try to get a feeling of what they might like to see. And that brings me to the next topic or the next question, which is, how do you know what the audience wants? I never know. You never know what the audience wants, but you can figure out. And that it's translated into that sometimes you have to lead and other times you have to follow. And what does that mean? Is that sometimes you follow because there is a part of the audience that will come to your festival because they know the artists that are playing, or the topics that you are going to talk about are familiar for them. Like familiarity is something that plays a very important role. Like in festivals, when you have headliners, they are the headliners because the audience is familiar with them. And the first thing that the audience or the white audience tries to find is this familiarity. This is exactly true for music. It's like why certain music gets very famous and other it's more difficult, because there is this familiarity aspect of it, like a pop song, which is something that we are very familiar with. It's a verse, a chorus, a verse, and a chorus. And we are familiar with that. Then this very same song can have like the craziest sound design, but still the craziest sound design will be like the new thing, the new attractive thing, and the thing that will bring music forward. But the bass, the verse, the chorus, the verse, and the chorus is always the same, and people are familiar with it. It happens the same with the festival. Like you have the chorus and the verse, and these are the things that the audience might expect. That is, certain artists that are very well known, certain pieces that have been around and are very well known, and the audience wants to see them in the country. Or other times are themes that at a certain point are interesting, like the public interest is on these things. Like for the past years, artificial intelligence has become like a topic that's interesting for lots of audiences, not just for creative professionals or not just for people who work in computer science, but for everyone. So you try to bring those topics, you try to follow those things that the audience finds familiar and that the audience wants. Like they say, okay, artificial intelligence is interesting right now, so give it to me. And you as a curator, you think, okay, the audience seems to demand that kind of content, so let's see how we make or take on this kind of content. Like we are going to take the content and we are going to deliver in our own way, in the personality of the festival. And other times you have to lead. And when you lead, it's when you try to curate those things that are less known, that sometimes are completely unknown, that sometimes are very out there on the fringes, things that pique your interest, and you see that there is also like an emerging interest in the creative community, but they are not still reaching out like a wider audience, or that kind of things that you kind of detect that they are interesting and they will be even more interesting over time. And you say, okay, we need to get this theme, this artist, this piece, this topic, and we need to feature it in the festival. And we will provide this new thing for the audience, because in festivals like Sónar+D, there is a big part of the audience that doesn't come for the familiarity, and they don't look for the headliner they feel comfortable with. They come to your festival because they want to know what's going on, like what's hot right now, what are the topics that are at the moment more interesting. So to bring these things that are more strange, that are more emergent, that are more new, that maybe they seem to fit strange with everything. So you will lead, because many of these things, maybe they will stay there, but many times some of these topics, they build over time and they become more important. Just to put you with an example, I think that we had our first virtual reality piece. There was just one in 2014. Like the new commercial virtual reality glasses were not even in the market, but there were already creators making things with them. So there was one and a large queue of people to see what was going on. And in more recent years, we have had 10, 15, 20. So there is something there, and you see this is going to grow. So let's bring it on. So sometimes you lead and sometimes you follow, and you do it for the artist, you do it for the pieces, you do it for the technologies, and also for the participants that will teach workshops, master classes, and that will come to speak. What else? What things you have to take also into account when you curate a festival, besides what might be interesting for the audience, what the audience can take from it, is that also when you curate the conference and you are maybe setting up a session or a panel, and let's say that we were mentioning artificial intelligence, but it could be immersive experience, or it could be, I don't know, virtual reality or whatever. If you want to set up a session around this topic, you will also, or at least that's what I like to do, is to join the dots between art and science and technology, and bring a variety of points of view and a variety of professionals and speakers that might bring different perspectives to the table. So if we are talking about artificial intelligence, of course, we are going to bring an artist that works with it and that has his or her unique way in seeing this kind of technology, and his or her unique way in which embracing this technology and using it to express something creative. But at the same time, we also want to have someone from the more technological point of view, maybe someone from a company that might tell you what they are doing more in an industrial level, what are their developments, what the future looks like in this field, what things artists can expect from them and the technologies that are being developed. So that is useful. And then the scientific part, it's important for many things, and one of them is that technology is nothing more and nothing less than applied science. So in most of the topics, you can find people from a more research academic point of view that can give like lots of really valuable insights on whatever thing that you are working on. So you already have the three things working together. You have the science, you have the technology, you have the art. And also you can draw more things into that equation. It will always work. And whatever happens in this session, it's designed so that it has value for the person that's in the audience, whether it be a professional from the world of the arts or the creative technologies, or whether it's just a person that has curiosity and just sits down there and says, okay, surprise me, tell me something I don't know, tickle my mind in a way. So that's a little bit how I work. And then you might ask, okay, so, but what do I do as an artist, as a creative? What do I do so I can make like my big installation, my big immersive installation, or my AV performance, or I don't know, VR game, so that I can have it featured in your festival? So this is the part that it's not an exact science, because what I was telling you, like every festival has its nature, even though the claims of the festivals might be the same. Maybe you need to offer something that matches in a way, even if it's very loosely, the theme of the festival, if there is some theme. For instance, at Sónar+D, we don't work around a theme, but we normally have some thematic lines in which we organize the program, and they are always like kind of wide. So there are many things and many perspectives that we can bring in. So that is something, if your piece hits the right button because it revolves around the theme of the festival that year, you have more chances so that you can feature your piece. And that you cannot always predict because every festival every year works around certain different themes. I would advise you, if you are an artist, maybe you are already doing it because it's like the most easiest, simple thing to do, is try to research the festivals that you would like to take part in. Like, I guess that it's that sometimes in order to work more, what you will do is to research all the new media festivals in which you can get your immersive experience and just, pitch your deck or your PDF or portfolio to them at looking whatever contact, like every festival has an info@festival.com or demos@festival.org, whatever. And I can completely understand that this is like throwing, I don't know, a message to space or throwing a message in a bottle. Like you take your resume or your deck, your PDF, and you send it to whom it may concern. And that sometimes works because at the other side of the email address, sometimes there are people like me who read the decks and read the works, and that at some point is useful because sometimes when you are curating something, you are asked for things. Like you might be asked for things that are always on the festival, like Sonar, there are always AV performances, so I'm always open for that. But there are things that one year there are more, one year there are less. Like maybe it's a large scale installation that's more difficult to do because that also plays in the shape that has every festival. And that's like another important point. Like when you curate the program for a festival, you don't only take into account the spirit of the festival, the thematic of the festival, you have to take into account where the actual festival takes place, the venue or the venues. Because as I said, every festival is different. For instance, Sonar and Sonar+D, they happen in a huge space that it's not specifically made for music or for festivals. It's a place where during the year there are different trade shows and fairs, and it's big enough to welcome a big audience. So you have to work with that space because in that space, it's going to be turned into a place in which to develop the festival. That means that it will have stages. So if you're an artist and from the digital field, if you want to pitch your piece or your work to a festival, the easiest way where you can enter is like, what does this festival have as a space for showing my work? It has 10 stages. So maybe what I have to propose to the festival organization or to the festival's curators is something that can be made or performed on stage. Is it a festival that has an exhibition area? At Sonar+D, we have an exhibition area. So maybe you can pitch this immersive installation, this VR piece, so we can showcase it. But that's why I was recommending you to research a bit the festivals and see how they are, what areas they have. Do they have maybe a film section where you can maybe screen something? Do they have, I don't know, like a place only for immersive sound works, and you have one of these kind of works, so pitch it there. It can change every year, but there are things that that stay the same always. So try to see what kind of spaces they have on the venue, and then you propose these things that fit. It's always way easier than proposing some kind of piece of work, and that tends to happen with large-scale installations in which the space, the perfect space for the work, has to be built. And that is not always possible, because if you're lucky enough, you will have the space, physical space, and the budget, which is also like a very important thing, to build this specific space so this immersive installation can take place. But that's not always the case. Or, for instance, if we take into consideration, as another example, one of the other festivals I work at, which is Auphonic. It's a festival that doesn't have a specific venue for it, but has many venues. And some of these venues are specific for music, like there are venues where there is a stage, and there is all the setup that you need, like an auditorium, all the setup that you need in terms of light, sound system, projectors, etc. So you can curate specific works for this space. But also, lots of the installations and performances happen in spaces that are not intended for music, or they are not intended for art, but they are good enough to have pieces of art embedded in them. So let me elaborate. For instance, Auphonic has installations in things like maybe natural areas or in public space. There are performances that might happen in an old church that it's not for music, but it can be used to play music. Or maybe, I don't know, or there are performances that happen in the open air, in the middle of nature. So each of those spaces asks for a specific work. And that doesn't mean that you commission site-specific works to fit these spaces. What you do is to try to match the two things together. Like, I have a beautiful space in which it would be very, very nice that something artistic happened here. And then how can I fill this space? And then, like, the world is full of ideas, like you receive inputs from artists that present you their things. And maybe you think, well, maybe in this corner or in this church or in this place, we could program this specific piece. Maybe it's an installation, maybe it's a VR piece, maybe it's a concert. So I would recommend you to observe how the festivals are. If you have like your top ones, like top festival 1, top festival 2, top festival 3, 4, and 5, make a little bit of research, see what's on their lineups, see what their themes are, if they are working on a specific theme. Because if they do, many of these festivals that work around a theme, they normally have open calls in which they ask for works that fit the theme. So I would recommend you to have always your eyes open, because when your specific work fits, you can go there and say, I have it. You need, I don't know, nature, space exploration, artificial intelligence, whatever, and I have it. So this is, I know it's a bit like the lottery, but this is an easy way to get in when the work that you do fits with the theme that is asked for. It's maybe easier for festivals that work more on loose things, on loose themes, like Sónar+D, like we always work on certain threads, certain areas, and so we can work our program around it. So make your research, see what do they have, what are the venues, do I already have something that I I have built, that I've created, that I would like to propose. If you know what's the space provided, it's going to be way easier for you. And yes, I know that this is not at all an exact science and is a bit like buying a lottery ticket, but it will make things much easier. Like, it's very difficult to go with a huge, large-scale immersive installation when there is not a specific space for it. But if there are specific spaces for certain things, then go and find out who's the person that that takes charge of the program, and send them your portfolio, your deck, your resume, maybe a few videos. This is also something that I recommend you and that most artists do, but you would be surprised of how many artists don't, is that try to provide a video. It doesn't have to be a super quality video. It doesn't have to be super well produced, but if you have a certain piece or a certain performance, record it, even if it's with your mobile phone. You will have time later on to make a super high quality video, but if it's something like very new that you are still working on it, just capture it on camera, capture it on video, because the people that we try to make the program, we can make ourselves like a clearer idea of how that might fit. Because I may receive your portfolio and maybe I like very much the idea. Like, you're an artist, you tell me a concept that fits perfectly with the themes that we are going to talk about this year, and everything seems to work fine. And even there are maybe a couple of very suggestive pictures, and I'm like, I might like this, maybe some sound snippets, and it's like, okay, the music's good. But then I'm like, okay, but what is this? Where can I put it? Does it need like a space in which the audience can be around the piece, or is it something that might happen on a stage? How is it? So if you can capture it in a video, that makes our life much easier, because we can imagine like the place where we can feature and showcase this specific work. It also gives us a very clear idea also of the dimension of the work. It's also like very good if you are working on a specific piece and you have different versions of it, which is something like very common, that you have a work that can be scaled up or scaled down. It's really good if in your proposal, in the document that you send to the curators, to be specific about that. It's like, this can be, level 1, level 2, level 3, like the smaller scale and the larger scale, because that also gives us an idea that it might be possible. Because maybe we see something and we say, okay, I have a huge space and that looks a bit small. Maybe it will get lost. Or it's different, like, this looks very, very big. There is no way that I can fit it anywhere. So if you already think about the different possibilities of a piece that can be scaled up or scaled down, this is better if you explain it, because otherwise we might ask you and we might say, okay, so this super large scale installation that you have, can you make it smaller or different? This thing that you have, can you make it bigger? Or this performative thing that you have, can you make it on stage? So I know it's a lot of work, but try to think about the possibilities that you can have when developing something and trying to find a couple or 3 different outlets for this something. Many of you, many artists are already doing it. Like there are so many works that have like an installation or a performance, and they can work together or separately. And I think that this is something good to do in order to make, you know, a better use of the time that you have invested in your work. And that also for us, for the curators, it gives us like more opportunities to imagine how it might be presented, and where is the perfect place in which we can show the work that you do. What else? Let me check my notes in order that I don't forget anything. So then you might ask, you might say, okay, Antonia, you have told us more or less how your festivals are, how the venues are, and that we need to take this into consideration. You have told us a few things about the audience that, of course, you want to reach. But what about, you also have told us about themes and technologies, but what it is that you are specifically looking for your festivals. And that goes down to something that it might be the most important thing. And maybe I should have said this in the beginning, but anyway, I will put it now. And it's, what do you take into consideration when curating a specific theme or advising the booking team at your festival to curate a specific thing? Like the very first one and the most simple, it should be something that I would like myself to see as an audience. Like, this is like the most difficult to explain, because in that kind of things, intuition plays like a big role. It's not just about taste. It's something like about what you can sense of the piece that the artist proposes you, and also how it will fit in the overall spirit of the festival. And it's like you see something, or someone tells you like a few sentences about a certain work, and you say, okay, this is something that I would like to see as an audience. And also somehow you feel it somewhere in your gut. It's not something that you measure with your brain, that you feel it, that it could be good. Like, this would fit perfectly. Like, this is for this festival, and that would be perfect for this space. So I think that the most important thing, and that's the most difficult to grasp, because I cannot even explain it in words, is this one. Is that thing that responds to a gut level, is what I would like to see myself as an audience. Because if I would see it myself, there are probably hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands of people that want to see it too. So that is one, and that one is like very, very, very difficult to explain. And normally this one, when you respond to this primal sensation that, okay, this fits, this is good, normally this tends to be a success and turns to be, it turns out always very, very good. There are the things that operate more like on a brainy level, less to the gut. It's like, what kind of works are you looking? I've mentioned it like a few times throughout the talk, is that I look for works that join the dots between science and technology and arts, different kinds of arts. And specifically, and that is also one thing that it's not super easy to explain, is that it's looking for types of works, whether they might be a live performance, or maybe there might be an installation, or maybe there might be some kind of experience that create a unique space or a space of their own in which different disciplines merge together, right? For instance, if you think about film, you think about film as a multidisciplinary field. No, there is like a person that takes care of the photography. There is a director who's good in telling the actors what they have to do. There is another person that writes the music. There are amazing designers who design the costumes. There are people who are very good designing the lights, so the thing looks very, very great. And then there are people who make magic with the editing and with the special effects, even with the opening credits. But very rarely, these different disciplines go outside of their specific discipline or the comfort zone. They just multidisciplinary teams working together to fit a specific role. The things that I am more interested in, and these are some of the things that the Italian artists I've met this afternoon have proposed, is that they work in teams. Sometimes it's artists working on their own, but sometimes they work in teams in which the roles are not so specific. It's not that there is a musician, a guy that does video, and a girl who maybe does some, I don't know, kinetic sculptures or exoskeletons for dancers. Like the roles of every person in the team, of every creator, or every artist are more fluid and are less specific. And sometimes one goes into the terrain of the other. And I'm interested also in works in which the inputs, not just technical, but creative from scientists are there. Like most artists that work in the field of arts and science, they do their own research, and sometimes like they reinforce or they back up their research with using like the advice of a scientist. Like they try to ask questions in order to validate their artistic research. And I like works in which the scientist is someone that's invited to do something that it's more just to support the artist in their work, but it's someone who has like lots of valid inputs, and it's one more of the team that is going to create a work. And that is not so frequent, but normally lots of interesting things come out of this kind of collaborations. And what else? So yes, these are the things in a more, I would say on a more practical level, in what kind of work I like to see and I would like to curate for the different festivals. That would be it. That's something that interests me. That's the things that I kind of want to see. But also, I also want to see things that are made by artists that try to go a bit further beyond. They are telling me things. Okay, so they're telling me that we are near the end. I'm going to tell you the last sentence that I was going to say. But now, if you have questions for me, like for instance, how can I pitch you my work? Please keep them coming and I will respond them. And what I was going to tell you is that many artists, what they do when they make their digital works is that they are very good technically. There are many artists that are very good technically, and they try to demonstrate the time that they can do everything, that they can do the artificial intelligence with the video, with the music, with the exoskeletons, with the rocket out of space, like everything. And that can tend to be very overwhelming. So take things out, look for what's important, and I think that your work will be more interesting. So I like when I receive things when there are teams who know a lot, that they are very proficient with lots of technologies, but they are very mindful in taking things out in order to make something that's very cohesive and that doesn't, in a way, overwhelm the audience. So do I have questions? Oh, yeah. Question number 1. Yeah. Could you please tell us about some of the experiences, projects you like the most so far? Okay. Yes, I can tell you, and I wish I could have shown you some works, but I don't have like the intellectual property of this work, so I don't always feel with the freedom to showcase them on the internet like that. But I like very much, and she participated at Sónar+D this year. I like very much the work of an artist technologist called Su-Wen Chung. She works with artificial intelligence and robotics, and she has a specific performance in which she works in collaboration with a robot, and she paints and she draws, and the robot learns from her, and they collaborate together in making these paintings. That kind of piece, it works some kind of an installation performance, and I think that it's beautiful. It has this this thing that it's very tangible and it's ancestral in a way, like maybe one of the most old forms of art besides singing. It's painting, and at the same time it has the cutting edge technology with the robot that works with the artificial intelligence, and it makes like a great combination. So this is one of the things that I have liked the most. What else? Question number 2. Sorry, Antonia, off-topic question. I like off-topic questions. What kind of project work do you intend as original? Obviously, not some that is not been seen yet, but an original idea. That is not an off-topic question, and that's a very difficult question to respond, because most things are not original. Like most things always come from another thing that comes from another thing that comes from another thing. And sometimes even the most original works, there are things that you find familiar, like it reminds me to this film, it reminds me to this painting, it reminds me to that specific work. But I think that original is when it has a strong personality, and it has where the personality of the artist or the team of the artist or the team of artists is very, very present. Like sometimes, especially in these transdisciplinary, antidisciplinary, multidisciplinary teams, the personality gets a little bit diluted because there is someone making great music and someone making great visuals, and everything is very beautiful and looks very well together, but there is something that's a personality that when this personality shines through, I think that makes it, and it's another thing that it's super difficult to put into words, because there are rarely things that are invented or completely new. Everything comes from somewhere, and originality is something that of course I look for, but it's not easy to find. And I think that it always boils down to personality, when there is a way of doing things that nobody does, just this specific artist or this specific team. It's in the aesthetics, it's in the narrative, in the way of telling things, yes.